Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 4, The Women, from verses 102 to 105. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful. وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةَ فَلْتَقِمْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ مَعَكَ وَلْيَأْخُذُوا أَسْلِحَتِهِمْ فَإِذَا سَجَدُوا فَلْيَكُونُوا مِنْ وَرَائِكُمْ وَلِتَأْتِ طَائِفَةٌ أُخْرَى لَمْ يُصَلُّوا فَلْيُصَلُّوا مَعَكَ وليأخذوا حذرهم وأسلحتهم ود الذين كفروا لو تغفلون عن أسلحتكم وأمتعتكم فيميلون عليكم ميلة واحدة ولا جناح عليكم إن كان بكم أذى من مطر أو كنتم مرضى أن تضعوا أسلحتكم وخذوا حذركم إن الله أعد للكافرين عذابا مهينا. When you are among them and you stand to lead them in prayer, let a group of them stand with you and let them hold their weapons. Then when they have done their prostration, let them withdraw to the rear and let another group they have not prayed yet come forward and pray with you. And let them take their precautions and their weapons. Those who disbelieve would like you to neglect your weapons and your equipment so they can attack you in a single assault. You commit no error if you are hampered by rain or are sick by putting down your weapons. But take precautions. Indeed, God has prepared for the disbelievers a demeaning punishment. فإذا قضيتم الصلاة فاذكروا الله قياما أو قعودا أو وعلى جنوبكم فإذا اطمأنتم فأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. When you have completed the prayer, remember God standing or sitting or on your sides. And when you feel secure, perform the prayer. The prayer is obligatory for believers at specific times. ولا تهنوا في ابتغاء القوم إن تكونوا تألمون فإنهم يألمون كما تألمون وترجون من الله ما لا يرجون وكان الله عليما حكيما. And do not falter in the pursuit of the enemy. If you are aching, then they are aching as you are aching. But you expect from God what they cannot expect. God is knowledgeable and wise. إنا أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله ولا تكن للخائنين خصيما. And we have revealed to you the scripture with the truth so that you judge between people in accordance to what God has shown you and do not be an advocate for the traitors. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God the Great said the truth. The verses are in carrying to where we left off last time, that if people are going through the land and they are in wartime, that if they fear that the disbelievers are going to harm them, they can shorten their prayers while they were traveling or while they are in pursuit in the land. Now, God is now showing us again how intricate this verses are. This chapter is in regards to the language that God is using in this book, in this chapter. So one of the things that we see is that in the war, that God is saying to the people, to the believers, to split in groups when it comes down to the prayers. One group will be defending while the other group is going to be a lookout. Now, there is the concept of trusting God, but it's not also just complete blind trust without you doing a part. This is obviously similar to these analogies where people say that somebody is drowning in the ocean and a ship comes by and says, come on, let me rescue you from the ocean that you're in. And he says, no, thank you. God is going to rescue me. Yeah, God is going to rescue you based on what you are trying to put forth. There are things that you cannot calculate and there are things that you cannot perceive where God will pick up that slack and help you where you need help. But if there's something that you can do and you're opting not to do it, then at that point you have yourself to blame. Here you are in the middle of the war. So the disbelievers are knowing a little bit of your schedule and they know your discipline. And they understand how important the prayer is to you. And you could see that in the world, usually people, when they're fighting the believers or people who are trying to become believers and fighting Sunnis and Shias, sometimes they target them on the days where it is their fasting season or whether it is time for them to pray, because they take advantage of the people who are trying to do their obligations to God and they take it as a point of weakness, yet it's a point of strength. So God is telling us here that these disbelievers, they have no respect, and for us to split into groups. One group is going to pray and then the other group is going to hold guard, and as the people who are prostrating to have their weapons near. So that it means you can cut your prayer in that moment to go defend. There are individuals that they think that it's an honor to like stay praying while they're being attacked. Yeah, if you're being attacked at this point, it is permissible. Actually, it is almost a must for you to defend yourself and your brothers, because they are transgressing not only on you but the word of God, because they're not standing the prayer with you. But the word that is important, or the phrase that is used here, which is really cool to think about, is where God is saying that here it's like you are praying for them, or you are doing the prayer for them. So it is always the person that is leading the prayer. He's the one who is he's the one who's leading the prayer, and he's the one who's doing the prayer for the other people. So the prayer is it's around the words that are being spoken. And the person that's in charge, he is the one who's opting what to say to God in those moments. And for us to do the prayer and to reflect about God and to hear what God has said to us, this is where the book is very important. Where you read the book and you reflect, and it is God talking to you through whoever is delivering that message in that moment, the message that the messenger delivered from God directly through his messenger, I mean. But you have to realize that the prayer is so important that there is no excuse, even in the middle of the war, where you can't just take the time for you to praise your Lord and to remember your God. Because it's this constant connection that you have with God, and these prayers that you perform, they are the ones that keep reminding you to stay in check, to keep yourself in a moment or in a zone or in a way of thinking that is not easy to do without the prayer. I understand there are people that say that there is no such thing as a prayer or ritual prayer that needs to be done. Well, here it clearly shows that this ritual that they have to do, it is not put away during the war. And if it's something that's supposed to be ongoing, then why is God talking about two factions or two groups, and that someone is leading the prayer for everyone else? This is incredibly important for us to realize. And God is telling you that that the prayer is something that is obligatory, and it has set times. And obviously, when you have completed the prayer, it is good for you to constantly keep remembering yourself with God and remembering God on your sides while you're standing, where you're sleeping, where you're sitting. This is something that becomes habitual, where it becomes an addiction, which it becomes an obsession. And these are considered things that are terrible when you're in the worldly life. It is terrible for you to have a vice or an obsession or a preoccupation with something where it is taking you away from what you need to be doing. This is obvious because it's called an addiction. It is something that is going to hinder you, and it's going to make you into a bad person. And people always tell you to take care of your addictions and not to have an addiction or a preoccupation. But all of that goes out of the window when it comes to God. Because however much you give to God, God will never get tired from you, nor will you have contentment or satisfaction that you're doing enough. Because every time you try to get close to God, you want to get closer. And the times where you stop obsessing about God and thinking about God, you feel so far and you feel so empty. It is like we've always felt empty until we had this relationship with God. And as soon as you taste that relationship, everything else becomes tasteless. It becomes like there is no purpose to it. And this is why God is telling you that when you complete your prayer, He's teaching you. He's training you onto something that benefits you. It's you remembering your Lord, remembering God often. And notice that when you feel secure, just perform the prayer as it's supposed to be done. This prayer, it's not a chore. This prayer is rather the thing that is like truly keeping you connected to your God in a way where it's extremely meaningful. And then you learn that this word that God has given us in this good book, it is so powerful, that is so applicable in so many times and in so many situations and in so many environments. And you being so close to this word and you remembering this word often, you find yourself making these good decisions and correct decisions that benefit you instead of harming you. Without the guidance and without God, you're going to make decisions that are not optimum, and most of the time you're going to make a decision that actually harms you. You might not see it now, but in the long run, you can't really tell what the future holds. And if you're going to hold on to the rope of God, then God knows the future. And you just have to trust in that moment. You do your part and you allow God to pick up whatever you don't know. And God clearly tells us here that there are times when you are in the pursuit of the enemy. There are times where it seems like the world is the weight on your shoulder is a little too heavy and that you're hurting. But the other side that's fighting you, they're hurting more. Or they're hurting just like how you're hurting. And the thing that we have to keep in mind is that because we are hurting in the name of God, because we are hurting and we are pursuing in the name of God and working for God in those moments, we're going to get something that the other side doesn't. So for us, this pain is worth it comparative to the other side where the pain is going to cause them even more pain later on. That they can't escape what they've fell into, which is fighting God and his messenger, or fighting God in the book that God has sent, and fighting those that truly believe in God and want to do good in the world, while the other side, they want to just give victory to their cults or give victory to these lies and falsehood that they cannot substantiate. Now, going back to where we were talking about in regards to the war and you're doing your prayer, this is something that I feel like people oftenly neglect on how important the prayer is. In this day and age, I find a lot of people, even Sunnis and Shias, they don't see the proper way of actually communicating with God in a prayer style. And so that you find yourself in a situation where you are improving, where you are going away from things that are immoral, things that are evil. And if you do flip or if you do fall in certain times, the things that truly rescues you from your sin and kind of expiates your sin away from you is your prayer. As God states in a different verse in regards when he's telling us when to pray, that the good deeds remove the bad deeds, or they expiate the bad deeds. And this was said right after the prayer. Now, when you start to pray and you really involve yourself into trying to perfect your prayer, which you can, you're going to realize how much your connection is so strong that even in the middle of the war, you're still remembering that you want to pray and you want to take that moment. Now, there's something that we have to understand. And it's the verse where God is telling us right here, where he's telling to the messenger, to the prophet, that he brought down the book so that he can judge what God has shown him. When you are reading this blessed book, the Quran, there are things that you are perceiving which you can see. You see it internally. It's not things that you are seeing outside. If I'm telling you the story of Lot, for example, you can imagine it. You can picture it. You can see what those people were or their mindset before them getting destroyed. And then you can witness them while they're getting destroyed, while you're making these images in your head. But there are things that you can actually perceive in the physical life, and you see how the verse is being applied. But the thing that's extremely important is that when people are having problems and issues, it is this book that is supposed to judge between us on who's right and who's wrong. Because you are involving God in this situation, and God knows us as humans better than anything or anyone that can ever will know us. In fact, he is the one who created us, so this is why he's so in tune and aware of who we are. So he sent us this book so that this book will judge between us, as long as the person is being honest to themselves, and as long as the people are actually looking at what the word states instead of trying to massage it just so that they would go carry on with what they're doing that is wrong. But the thing that I would like to point out is God never asked the prophet to judge with his own style or thinking, but rather the book was sent as this judge. If you remember in chapter 2, we had an episode where the humans were one, mankind was one nation. And then when they started to split, God sent the book so that the prophets can judge between the people, and so that God can judge between the people by what the prophets have brought. And now we have a prophet that brought the book again to us, but now God has also preserved this remembrance that is within these books, or this book, where we are capable of actually seeing the truth in whatever environment that we're in whatever case the society has fell into or is being born into, if it's a new type of society or a new type of civilization or whatever evolution that is going on around us. The Quran is always the truth. That is the basis of truly who the human is with his relationship with God, and on how he should be handling things that are around him. These are incredibly important lessons for us to understand. The prayer is the thing that really keeps you connected to God, for you to remember what you need to do, and for you to act the way that you need to act, and for you to show that patience that you need to show at times, or the perseverance and being steadfast. And then you cannot give up your prayer just because you're under certain pressures, but there are times where you have to shorten it and you have to take precautions just so that you do not hurt yourself for no reason. It better be a good reason, which God is telling us here. It is war. But even in the middle of the war, if you could take your full prayer and you have people defending you, then you should do so. It should be a point of relaxing and connecting to God and mediating and reflecting. And it's a very good time for you to really feel emotional. If you are not capable of feeling emotional in your prayer, then it may be you're just doing a routine more than actually reflecting on the word. Or maybe you're doing something that is not acceptable in the eyes of God. So you're slowly being sealed. These are things that we can observe from our day to day, and we truly have to understand what God is telling the prophet and the people around the prophet here because of what they're going through, which is very clear that they're going through a war. Yet for them, the prayer was important. And for you, who's not going through a war right now, God willing, the prayer is extremely important. And with that said, I truly hope you guys are enjoying these. All praise to God, the Lord of the worlds, and peace be upon you.